Hi there, everyone. Welcome back. Happy Hanukkah. Want to turn our attention to the story where Yosef frames Binyamin and has placed by one of his servants. Has placed a goblet into Binyamin's backpack as they're heading back home to Yaakov, and as they leave Egypt, of course, it's a setup. They chase after the brothers, and they say, hey, Yosef is missing a goblet. They don't say it's Yosef. And lo and behold, they open up all the bags, and it's in Binyamin's backpack. The next pasuk that says immediately, Vayikru'u simlotam, that the brothers tore kriya, they ripped their clothing in almost like a sense of mourning, I guess. Vayamos ish al chamoro, and they each reloaded their backpacks. Vayashuvu ha'ira, and they went back to the city to face whatever the consequences were for this terrible moment. Now, the Midrash Tanchuma builds upon this and says the following: V'hayu omdin umechabtin leBinyamin al ktefav v'omrin lo. Binyamin has this in his backpack. Can you imagine what was the reaction of the brothers? So they tore kriya. They're obviously distraught about what's about to happen to them. But it says, the Midrash says, that they all got up, they arose, and they literally punched Binyamin on his shoulder. Like, what in the world were you thinking? Right? They cried out to him. They punched him on the shoulder. Mechabtin leBinyamin al ktefav ve'omrin lo. They say to him, Iganava berod ganavta, you thief, son of a thief. Biyashtanu, you have embarrassed us. You've disgraced us. Ben imechat, you're your mother's son. Kach bisha imcha et avinu, your mother did the same thing with our father. He disgraced our father. And the Midrash continues, so they're berating Binyamin. First of all, Binyamin didn't do it, and they're berating him and accusing him, and they believe that he's actually done this. They call him a thief. Ubishvil otan hamakot, the Midrash says that because of all those punches to his shoulder, shehikuhu b'ktefav, zacha shetishre shchina ben ktefav, Binyamin merited to have the bracha, as is given by Moshe Rabbeinu at the end of the Torah, V'zot HaBracha, Shenemar chofef alav kol hayom, ubein ktefav shachen, that he covers him, God covers him all day, and dwells between his shoulders. It was because of those punches to the shoulder that God would one day merit to be between his shoulders. His presence will be between his shoulders. Okay, so we have a lot to unpack here. What's the Midrash saying? First of all, let's deal with this question. Why are the brothers accusing Binyamin of having done this? Shouldn't they know that there is already precedent for things being placed in their backpacks in Egypt, snuck in there, and then they ended up taking home, if you remember previously, they took home a bunch of money. And they were all scared. Oh my gosh, they're going to think we stole money. We didn't do it though. They put it in our backpacks. We didn't actually do it. In fact, Yaakov even says maybe it was a whole mistake when they put the money in the backpack. So now, why aren't they assuming that, hey, Binyamin's being framed? Plus, it's not like Yosef been that nice to them. He basically accuses them of being spies. It would not be out of character at that moment to think, okay, did they set us up here? Is this a setup? But they immediately jump to accusing Binyamin of actually being a thief. So it's just a stunning image, and perhaps one of the reasons that they end up accusing Binyamin and not assuming the best in him is actually in one of the lines that we just read. They call Binyamin a thief, the son of a thief. they accuse his mother, Rachel, of also being a thief. Just as she stole, and she actually did steal, the trafim from Lavan, these religious articles and these little mini idols that Lavan had, and she hid it under herself. She was pretending that she couldn't get up because she wasn't feeling well. And she actually had stolen Lavan's idols. So they said, look, of course you're a thief. You have family history of being a thief. Your mother, Rachel, is a thief. And this is, this is really still stunning. Even if you say that, there's some family precedent. First of all, Binyamin was born and Rachel died in that childbirth. She didn't have an influence on him in that kind of way. And Rachel didn't have a pattern of being a thief. She did this to try to get rid of idolatry from her father's house in one final act of, maybe defiance a little bit against her father. But it's so difficult to understand why they would have done this. And I think the pshat is, they did it because in this moment, they were upset. They were fearful. They thought the worst was going to happen to them, and they were looking for a place to blame. How often in life, do we find ourselves being guilty of this, maybe? And not you. I've done this. We're making a son. We're in a very stressful, difficult situation, and we're looking for where to place the blame. When in reality, this was nobody in their family was sort of to blame here in this situation, by the way. It was an outside force that was acting on them. But Binyamin was an easy target to place the blame. Now I want to think about the second part of this midrash. Right now, Binyamin has been leveled with a terrible claim. He's dealing with his own stress of now having just been caught with a goblet that he didn't put in his backpack, and everybody, including his brothers, are accusing him. That doesn't look good when you go in front of the judge and say, Your Honor, I am innocent. Oh yeah, why are your brothers yelling at you that you did it? His reaction was silence. According to the Midrash, he didn't say a word. He took the punches, the verbal punches and the literal punches to his shoulder, and he didn't say a word. Because he understood, obviously, that he didn't do it. But he also understood that his brothers were in a very anxious and difficult situation. They had made a promise to their father that Binyamin would be okay. And now, what would be? And he's trying to de-escalate the situation by not being overreactive here. They are in a very difficult situation no matter what he says. And he says, look, I'm just going to take it, because what's the best thing right now for us as a family unit is to try to focus on how to resolve this situation. How am I going to prove my innocence? How am I going to maneuver this so that it has a happier ending, so that my father doesn't die of depression from having lost another son, particularly the other son from Rachel. And so he's quiet. And sometimes that's really the right response to being accused of nonsense. But it's when the accusations are done in the heat of the moment, and you know that maybe the other person doesn't really mean it, and they don't really mean to hit me so hard. And the way to sometimes cool that off is to really just not really respond in any way. And what was the reward for this? God said, your shoulders might hurt because they punched you, but I'm going to be between your shoulders for the rest of your life and for your descendants as well. Because you kept yourself cool in that moment. And by doing that, you allowed God to be ever more present in that moment. You're not going to just be overly reactive, but how am I going to do my best to serve the Rabboni Shalom right now? I'm not going to start yelling at them and telling them how awful they are for accusing me. And I'm not going to do that. I'm focused on one thing, and that is to make sure that my father is going to be okay, that my brothers are going to be okay. My job as an Eved Hashem, as a servant of God, is to be thinking about the welfare of those around us, and that's what Binyamin was concerned about. And that's why he's rewarded with God's presence always being between his shoulders. May we learn the lesson that in the moments of great distress in life, and then sometimes we may be accused of things, people will point the finger at us and say, why did you do that? Why? And I didn't do it. What are you talking about? To be able to respond in a calm way, that is something that would elevate the spirituality and the godliness of that moment, and not to let it devolve into some shouting match, but rather find a way to elevate the situation and to try to improve the situation for everybody that's involved. Shabbat Shalom.